Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, waking up for a little bit of a later beginning to this Wednesday morning over here from a very rainy Helsinki, Finland. As always, wish you the best of the best. We got a shit ton of things to talk about because holy fuck, massive girthy green dildos being shoved right in my face last night. And that was really fun on Twitch for everyone who came out, doing a lot of live trading there, doing a lot of just very short-term analysis. And that was very reminiscent of just kind of being in the crowd in a pit and just having fun with it, man, and letting the volatility work for you in those in those quick short moves. And man, that was truly special. So I want to massively thank everyone who came out and remind myself that I will not be doing a Twitch stream tonight. I actually have a few things to be taken care of, but that'll set us up for some nice Twitch streaming tomorrow and very likely Friday as well. So with all of that said, we have a lot to cover up today. First and foremost, I want to say this move that I was looking for to come on later on this week, coming basically yesterday, mostly yesterday. And I want to remind the people who are here, or the people who are here already know this, but if you are new to this channel, I want to kind of enlighten you. Understand that the YouTube titles that I put on these videos are almost never related to the YouTube content. It's quite literally just for clickbait bullshit to kind of make fun and have fun with the exuberant irrationality of this market that you typically see on crypto YouTube, crypto Twitter, and all these great social media venues. So please, if you've been in this channel for a while, you already know that. But for all of those who are new here, the titles are usually used to like grab attention, and then we get you in here and we fucking waterboard you with good old information. Anyways, to follow up on yesterday's analysis, I suppose it's actually time to get into the charts right now. What else do I want to say? We can talk about the app in just a second here, but hey, wishing you the best and the happiest. Today in fucking Krown's Crypto Cave video if we don't say that. And let's initiate that good old teleportation, and I'll take you into the app right now, which is available for full-on public use. The app is not fully completed itself, but this first few pages are, and we're going to be adding more and more content to it with each and every passing week. So looking at it right here, we do see that Bitcoin dominance is actually taking a 1% tick to the downside. From yesterday, it was about 63.5%. So alts having a little bit of a party, which means that I'm going to reluctantly be speaking about alts more than I typically do, just because there are going to be a lot of very interesting things going on in them, and admittedly so with the stronger ones, there is a lot of very good setups completing and also in progress. On top of that, we actually saw open interest go up from yesterday. So remember yesterday it was hanging around about 1,350,000,000, and right now it's actually back above 1,420,000,000, baby. Beautiful number. But more importantly, that does tell us that earth-shattering face melting move that we've been looking for is actually still not what we've seen. And if you were watching price action yesterday, and especially in the Twitch stream yesterday, you probably noticed we really didn't get all that much liquidations that you'd expect from a move like we saw. So with that in mind, the big move is still yet to come, and we're going to look at the higher time frames and pull that into all the analysis. So always keep that in the back of your mind, because still we are actually awaiting that that big boy move, which is going to tie into the higher time frame analysis, as I just said. So if you are more interested in that, definitely go check out the last video that I uploaded into the long-term analysis playlist. We'll briefly touch on it in a video like this, but I really want to save it for those really dedicated videos for the long term. But now with that move happening yesterday, I mean, it does make it a lot more interesting and a lot more relevant to what we're going to be talking to today. So perhaps actually we'll get a little more deeper into it. Anyways, with all that said, let's get into the actual trading, or sorry, into the actual charts right on over here. And Bitcoin doing, oh man, there's so much to talk about. So first and foremost, from the low, so I kind of want to follow up with what I spoke about over yesterday. Remember yesterday and the day before, I was saying Bitcoin, I'm mostly looking for it to just go sideways within this region and then just float its way onwards and upwards towards the end of the week, early next week. We actually got that move just straight up yesterday. I was not really expecting that move to happen at exactly that time, but this is why I go from range to range, to kind of get that time component of it out of the equation and just simplify down and use and try to combine as much things as possible. Anyways, putting on the drawing tools right here, the critical region where we started to initiate that next measured move towards 10,500, 10,550-ish region. How high did we get on that last one? 10,500 to the T. So I actually do think that we have a little bit more room to the upside here, as I was saying, 10,550 to 10,600. close enough is fucking close enough. But what initiated that was taking out this last prior blue box territory on a 4-hour delta closure. Beautifully done, just about 30, 40 bucks above, and then continuation onwards and upwards. So that's what destroyed the range. Of course, a lower time frame range coming in right around 9,900. We caught that one as well on the Twitch stream, and that's what initiated that move. I'm kind of like doing this backwards, I suppose, but initiated that move from 9,900 to this level right here, and then we went from level to level again, and there was multiple trades we had of that. And actually, if you were in that Twitch stream, you saw me take a pretty nasty loss right around shorting this $10,000 level right here. I was basically just going off of what would have been a horizontal on a lower time frame like this. If we went down to like maybe an hourly, I was just looking for a very short-term play coming in from this little ledge right and over here. Did not get that one. I actually took a loss on that play, but that set us up later on to take a few plays off here and a few plays off here in the 10-2 range, and then the 10-350 range right and over here. And at the end of the day, ended up positive, which is exactly what trading is. Take a loss somewhere else in order to make a gain somewhere else. That's all that it is. I'm more than happy to take a loss, and I'm so happy that happened on stream, because one, I don't want people thinking that like, and if you've been in this channel long enough, you already fucking know this, but I don't want people thinking that like my trades are infallible. I take losses, but the thing is with that is that it always has to be mediated with some other trade on the other side. And in this case, the market was very generous with giving us those opportunities pretty much instantaneously right after that. So it doesn't really hurt all that, doesn't really sting all that much when you have that in the back of your mind. Anyways, I am like, man, this was a pretty nice move. To be fair, this was a 4-hour dildo that traveled about $500 and did about 1.37 billion with a B, billion with a fucking B, just on BitMexico. So pretty damn impressive, to be fair. But it's still not that that face melting move that I'm looking for. And the reason why I say that is because open interest is still kind of hanging out high. And also on our higher time frames for historical volatility percentile, we are starting to expand here, but I believe that this expansion is going to be sustained. Remember this 12-hour regression line that we drew in, for the last like couple months, really. But more importantly, yesterday was the first day where we've actually kind of bucked this trend, and I would look for this to get to be sustained and extend, which means that we're still yet to see that big bad move. And I do believe that it's going to come alongside of a target, probably in the 11,000, so 11,500 to 12,000. If you were paying attention to the last long-term analysis video, like I said, we'll kind of deduce that again from this video again here today. But this is kind of the basis of that open interest plus historical volatility percentile. Now we're gonna kind of go to the higher time frames on CMEs and remind ourselves that the inverted head and shoulders that we've been looking at on this weekly chart right here is still pointing towards a proverbial move towards about 11,500 to 12,000 bucks, also in line with our August 2019 highs, which is also coming in at the only fucking present gap on CMEs right and over here. I know that a lot of people are talking about an 8,500 gap or a fucking 7,500 gap or God forbid a fucking 7,300 gap right around here. Those are not relevant, at least in the way that I'm looking at it. And I'd be very cautious against anyone who's calling those things gaps. The thing with the gaps, they become a little bit of a meanie in a market like this because they do work out, but the problem is that most people, and this is it's not a diss on anyone, but most people have never traded traditional markets where gaps are stock standard on just about a daily basis. And when people are like zooming in on a fucking hourly chart looking for like, oh man, we have a $20 gap here, it's like that's not the way that they're supposed to be used. That's a very, very inefficacious way over time. And you can imagine that all the people who have been shorting the whole goddamn way up telling you that things are going to go back down to 8,500 or 7,500 because gap and divergence, which have just been wrong the whole goddamn time, count's probably not looking all that hot, assuming that they are trading upon those presuppositions. Anyways, my point is that this is the only one on the board, and if you're in the technical analysis program, definitely go check out the bonus video, like way in the back of the program. It's like maybe video number 43 or 44 about how to trade gap and gap theory. And in this case right here, do you see wick to wick? No, you do not. Gap is essentially sustained, gap is confirmed, and that is still very much present. And with this in line with an actual major technical pattern being played out as well, alongside all major moving averages from the weekly time frame, which has gotten things extremely well for the last last, well, not for the last, but for the genesis of Bitcoin's history, I do think that things are going to eventually just kind of float their way up there. Now, do I have a time frame for this? No, I don't. I do think actually that now, because we've gotten this last move and we do see volatility expanding with price action, we get it very, very likely sooner rather than later. But, looking at weekly moving averages right here, also very, very bullish. We've been looking at this ever since January, middle of January, right on over here when we got our first close above the yellow 21 exponential moving average. You can see that this has been a pretty damn good way of standardizing price action for the past. Anytime that Bitcoin's above it, generally good. Anytime Bitcoin's below it, generally bad. And we're talking about macro cycles here. So that was a big turning point. And more importantly, since then, it's gotten a positive slope. This red moving average is a 10 symbol. That's a lower period than the 21, which means that their relationship to each other is going to speak to the strength of the short-term trend, of the long-term trend. And if we get this 10 symbol trading above the 21, I would expect this rally to really take another major leg up longer term. Now we're looking at a weekly, so again, I'm not necessarily saying that this is going to happen today, although with the recent price action, wouldn't be all that surprising. Wouldn't be all that surprising, to be fair. But this is alongside that major change of behavior that we looked at for the last couple weeks on the weekly Stokes right on over here, getting back above the bearish control zone for the first time since September, middle of September, on the breakdown from 10.3 to 6, what was it, like 7.5 or something like that. And you can see that, going over the past of Bitcoin, anytime that we've been below the bearish control zone, those are your bear markets. Anytime that we've been above, those are your bull markets, almost infallible since the dawn of time. And that was giving you that signal all the way back on over here 3 weeks ago in late January. Not only that, but more importantly, looking at weekly RSI, getting back above this blue box territory right on over here is why I started to really switch around to being bullish. So even though I wasn't necessarily looking for that move to happen yesterday, I was looking for some more sideways price action. The bias has always been bullish as long as we are above that critical point of 9,600 and even more aggressively 9,700 for the more lower time frames, which Bitcoin just tested a few times. I was looking for a wick below there, didn't get it. That's completely fine. And then just green dildo rockets to the fucking moon like Hulk. Looking at this right now, though, I do think at some point in time we will come back down and test around the blue box territory, but very similar on this to the weekly Stokes. Anytime that we're above this, generally good. And I would be looking for this to get retested at some point in time, and that's probably going to be my next big opportunity. So I'd imagine that Bitcoin's going to, hit whatever target that's aiming for right now. Short term would be about 10. Almost 11,000 really, and then a little bit more medium to longer term, 11,500 to 12,000. I look for one of those two areas to be like a major local high, probably going to be the higher one of those at 11,500 to 12,000. And I look for this to come back down and test around the blue box territory longer term. That's probably going to be the next like major potential opportunity for a long term play. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not financial advisor, but this is essentially what I'm looking for. And it looks to me like we're probably going to just officially test the edge of the bullish control zone here. Give it a nice little love tappy tap. And first pass usually going to be pushed back. Not a big deal, but just kind of postulating a little bit further in advance right now. Remember also that on historical volatility percentile on a weekly, we are still contracting here. So from a weekly standpoint, which again speaks to the macro and Bitcoin land, we are at extremes from a historical standpoint. Very rarely have we even been this low or lower. The only times in the history of Bitcoin were in March 2019 before the breakout from 4,000 to 14,000. The breakout in October of 2016 from basically like I think Bitcoin was around $400 to 20,000 like a couple years later. Time before that was May 2016 on the actual switch up from bear to bull right on over here, and time before that was coming out of or actually this was a switch from bear to bull in August 2015 from about 230 to $500 just a few weeks later. So we do see some pretty major price action precipitated upon this. Doesn't mean that it's always gonna be the upside, although in the past it actually always has been to the upside on a weekly schedule, which I don't want to make sound like that's always going to happen. No, there certainly will be explosions to the downside as well. But in this case, with trend also, reverting and confirming back to an uptrend on a weekly basis by getting a higher high above that October 2019 spike right here. This all looks really, really good to me. We've been speaking about this for a long time. So if this does sound like what's it called, hindsight analysis, just understand that we've been, if you're new to this channel, we talk about this pretty much almost daily. So I do tend to repeat myself, and it's also good to follow up on new evolutions in price action over time, so that you can see how these higher time frames operate over realistically over like a quarter of a year, rather than just like over a fucking hourly dildo, which is not going to tell you all that much. But this is why I put a lot of weight on these higher time frames, and just speaking to the weekly trend as well. Anytime that we've had a reversal on the weekly, whether it be to the upside or the downside, those are your major massive moves. 70% move to the downside, hundreds of percents to the upsides. And yes, we did get our first higher high, like I said, right around here, also completing a bullish reversal formation as well in the inverted head and shoulders, also showing all momentum oscillators up, moving averages up as well, all looking good from a historical standpoint. All of those have been, well, precipitating these major mass moves to the upside. And if we want to take that one step further, we can go over to the monthly as well, which actually I haven't looked at the monthly in a little bit of time, but in like major hindsight now, the monthly holding up above the 21 exponential moving average, especially the people in the program know why that is very, very massive there. Monthly Stokes looking like they probably want to cross back up to the upside here after getting rejected from the bullish control zone, which is quite natural after being away from it for quite some time, but still adding on to the strength of this rally. Monthly RSI also looking very, very healthy as well. I really, really like this read back above the exponential, and I do think that's going to gun for the bullish control zone again after getting rejected from it, which again is quite normal after that first pass. But longer term, everything does look good to me. I do think that Bitcoin is going to reach for that $11,500, $12,000 number over the coming couple weeks to a month and a half, something like that. I don't really have like a timing component of that, but with the way that volatility is expanding right now, it actually does seem a little bit more likely that happens sooner rather than later. Anyways, let me just cancel this right over here and make sure that I don't have any open positions while I'm doing this, because I tend to get lost in my own speech sometimes instead of like paying attention to my trades when I'm making videos. So I try not to do trades while I'm making videos, but while I'm doing like Twitch streams, it's actually a lot more reasonable, just because I don't know why actually. Now I'm sure that everyone's calling bearish divergence on like every time frame up to a fucking daily, because that's what everyone does. But understand that the daily is still completely healthy right here. There is no local high to be spoken about as it is right now. And the way that we closed yesterday's dildo back above the rejection that came at the tail end of the weekend is really, 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 really strong. Now, what this looks like to me is that we actually Bitcoin likely is going to play some downside here, but I'll just look for this area to be retested right around about 10,150 to 10,200ish region, and probably another leg to the upside after that. Basically, just retesting this prior dump dildo right here, which remember came on a weekend, which we caution against, because anytime that you see price action happen on a weekend, it typically gets reverted back, as the week starts. Moi moi, there goes Elsa. And I just realized my face camera is looking really sluggish. I probably have it on like the wrong frame rate or something like that. I'm sure that someone who is more technologically advanced than myself can tell me exactly why that's happening, and I'll be more than grateful to hear that information. But yeah, looking at this right here, more importantly, we do see that daily RSI more or less constructive, more or less healthy. And guess what? Remember what we had been looking at, especially on CME RSI, over the past couple weeks as this has been formulating. Remember, this was did my chart get deleted? Okay, well, whatever. No, there it is. Remember this, we had a lovely ascending triangle at the edge of the bullish control zone, and now it's actually been confirmed to the upside. We saw this happen in real time yesterday on Twitch as we took out the high of 72 right beforehand, and that happened when Bitcoin was just getting back above like 10,050-ish dollars region. So that was also another big signal to get long for that next continuation play. In longer term, this is just fucking great, because I see so many people just I won't even reference those other people. It's just not relevant. Fuck them. Sorry. Don't fuck them unless they want to be fucked. But, longer term, this is a confirmation of a change of behavior. Holy fucking shit. People are all calling like bearish divergence on daily. There's not even divergence to be had right now. But people are calling it like a fucking rising wedge, or were calling it divergence the other day. First and foremost, we have continuation. So you can't compare like a local top with a not local top. Just you're going to short every drive of continuation on every trending move for the eternity of eternity until you lose all of your count. But more importantly, looking at this from long term, you can see that we've been kicked out of the bullish control zone ever since June of 2019, which, let me remind you, if perhaps you've forgotten, that was that whole move from 4,000 to 14,000 right in over here. Bitcoin RSI, especially on CMEs, was holding this level really, 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 really well, and it wasn't until we got kicked out of this level where we got allergic to it for the next like half year plus, where Bitcoin was essentially going down from 14,000 to 6,500 right in over here. It's by no mistake that this looks like one massive reaccumulation formation if you were to look at this as like a line chart instead of just an RSI, which it actually more accurately represents, funnily enough. Anyways, Bitcoin consolidating at a high level alongside the bullish control zone does not only just confirm a change in behavior, but also adds validity to the breakout as we complete the ascending triangle to the upside as well. And I would be looking for a daily RSI to reach back up towards the critical zone right here. So, do I think that we reach for that next target to the upside sooner rather than later? Yes, I do. Probably it's the next couple of weeks. A little bit of floundering here and there. And like I said, on the lower time frames on Bitcoin, I do think that Bitcoin is probably going to come back down and test like this blue box right here. That'd be between about 10.1 to 10.2. It's more like 10.150 to 10.200. So I do think that we're going to come back down and test around there, but I wouldn't be looking for any deeper of a retracement unless if Bitcoin were to like close a 4-hour dildo below 10,100. If that were to happen, I would probably look for another move back down to like 90. What is this? Like 90. Wherever this blue box is, about 9,800, 9,850-ish region. I don't think that that's happening here, though. I think that we're probably going to test this region. You might have even considered this, as already counting as a test. I think that would be reasonable to say. I don't really have a strong opinion on that, but more importantly, I would be looking for this to hold on up, and I'd be looking for Bitcoin to give another try to the upside. Next short-term resistance is about 10,550 to 10,600, which we got front ran from on the early morning, or on this early morning right here. But I look at this 10,550 to 10,600 resistance very, very similarly to how I saw the 9850 resistance right here. It is present and it is relevant for the lower timeframes, but I don't believe that that's going to really make much of a difference for the higher timeframes. The higher timeframes, I do believe, are going to work their way higher. No pun intended there. But my point is that lower time frames probably look for like a short-term pullback, a little bit of a consolidation, but higher time frames I look strong more or less, and I do think that they're going to essentially just continue onwards and upwards here. And if I had to put a guess on it, I'd say it's sooner rather than later. Anyways, let's look at the expected moves chart with all of this in mind. And now I'm going to get rid of some of these here. I'm going to get rid of this blue box actually right here, just because I don't really care for it all that much anymore. It's still relevant, but it's not relevant to where price action is at the current moment in time. Let me get rid of some of these alerts as well. I was looking for wicks in that range, and as you can see, it got front ran by just a few bucks right there yesterday. Really wanted position in that region, but that's okay. Anyways, okay. So what was I just on? Yes. So here are the two big ones. Well, these aren't really. This one's the big one for the more preliminary area to the downside. So 10,150 to 10,200 ish region. Maybe you extend that to 10,100. It's all the same essentially. But more importantly, I'm not even short-term bearish as long as we're above there. I do think that we probably come back down and test it officially, but I do think that is going to be an extremely strong area for a bounce and probably continuation of trend to the upside. Now, like I said, our more preliminary resistance is coming in right at 10,550 to 10,600-ish region. I don't think that this is anything more than just a short-term area. Like I said, Bitcoin's probably going to find a little bit of resistance there, but ultimately it very, very likely does work its way higher towards the next real resistance from a medium time frame perspective, coming in about 11,000 bucks, where I'd be looking for more of a medium-term consolidation, while Bitcoin sets up the next move to 11.5 to 12,000-ish region, a little bit more longer term. That's kind of how I see, kind of how I'd be looking at things going forwards here. I am curious to see how this lines up with the expected moves chart, which we'll go into right here, right now. So looking at this right here, this is on a 4-hour, which actually is going to get the 4-hour range really, really well. So showing about 10,200 to 10,450. I would more or less agree with that. But let's look at the 12-hour, which has been getting things pretty damn well. It did call that 10.5 region right here on that last rejection, and fucking beautiful. Where's the edge of the first deviation to the downside at? 10,150. So I do feel quite confident in that, calling a move down to like 10,150, 10,200-ish region, but I would be also just as confident calling is the wrong, I fucking hate that thing. It always sounds so arrogant. But looking for a bounce off that region. Of course, things could fall through, and at that point, if 10,150 does get closed below on like a 4-hour total time frame, I would look for extension down to about 9850-ish region again, but I don't think that that's what's happening here. I think that this is more or less healthy, more or less good, and maybe a little bit of sideways here, but ultimately just stair-step its way onwards and upwards. Now, would say that if we do work our way up to that 10,600-ish region, it is a less than 2.5% chance that we actually do work our way above, and for that $11,000 region, it's even less than a 1% chance right there, and equally to the downside, about less than 2.5% chance that we actually even break 10,000 to the downside in this next 12 hours worth of trading period. Daily is Daily is a little bit more in line. This is kind of funny because recently the 12-hour I think has been working better, but in this case the daily is actually agreeing with the analysis as I have it for the medium term and the short term a lot more, which is kind of strange. Don't always see that, but hey, fair enough. The bottom side of the first deviation coming in right around about 10,100, so that is the lower echelon of that blue box. I've kind of been saying 10,150 to 10,200, but because if price action were to be brought back down around there, I think that we would get a few liquidations. We probably do see a tick towards 10.1, but more importantly, we do see the top side of the first deviation right fucking dead in line with the short-term resistance to the upside, 10,550 to 10,600, and I don't think that that's anything too crazy. I do think it's going to produce a short-term pullback, and as you can see right here, to break it today to the upside would be a little bit less than a 16% chance to happen, just like to break 10,100 to the downside today would be less than a 16% chance to happen. But more importantly, if we were to break it to the upside today or in the coming days, we do see that the second and third standard deviation are kind of aligned in that next major territory to the upside. So around that $11,000 number, like 10.9 to $11,000, which is where I'd be aiming my cannons after 10.6 gets taken out on like a 4-hour total closure. Of course, higher time frames better, but I do believe that would be one of the times appropriate to be a little bit more aggressive because Bitcoin is trending quite hard right now and has been trending ever since we confirmed that weekly higher high, which I've gotten so much shit about, which is very, 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 very funny. And I've started to learn to just kind of ignore a lot of messages on Discord. The reason being is not because I'm like trying to be a dick to anyone, but it's just better to speak to the group rather than individuals, because everyone, like, just more people benefit, really. Anyways, okay, cool. All right, what else do we want to check out? Been speaking about Bitcoin for 25 minutes now. Let's go check out traditional markets really, really quick. Holy fucking moly! Another all-time high. Closing on new all-time highs once again. I don't really have too much to add on to that. I would be looking for continuation here. Overall, I'm bullish. How do I see today going? Probably another up open, actually. It's just stair stepping again after a cup and handle continuation formation getting confirmed, and that actually does have a measure move much higher. So probably medium term, longer term over the next like month or so, I'd be looking for a move up to like 340, 345 region. It's going to be an ebb and flow up to that region, but I do believe that it's more or less bullish here. And more importantly, we do see a strong correlation between Bitcoin and traditional markets, which traditional markets just being in a blow, just fucking straight melting up right now is more or less good for Bitcoin longer term. Anyways, let's see, what else do we have? Do we want to check out some forex check coins really, really quick? We got dollar yen heading back up. Not necessarily at we hit our short-term target at 110 and a quarter, but I do think that longer term, this is actually pretty good longer term. I do think that it's going to turn the corner here and actually head up towards about 111 and a half longer term. Pound yen, what do we see here? Most fucking AIDS infested chart that I can look at. Short term, it's going to be bullish again. I'd probably be looking for a move up to 144 spot one. Fuck this, man. The ranges have been the way to play it. I mean, we've had these ranges in ever since this area right here, and all you've had to do is just sell on this area and buy on this area. But for whatever reason, I want to get bullish and bearish on each and every fucking drive. But I do think that short term it's up. Gold holding this reaccumulation formation as it is. I don't really have a strong opinion on this, as it's quite literally in the middle of the range. Momentum oscillators are turning back up. Daily Stokes up. Daily RSI is in the process of completing some hidden bullish divergence, so maybe we do get that tick up to 1585 region. Overall, I think it's more or less healthy longer term. Monthly look completely fine, and I do think that it reaches towards 1600 plus, like 1610 to 1630-ish region on this next drive over the next month or two. Euro dollar probably down around our lower target. Hit our lower target actually to the T. Very, very nice. Now bouncing up. I do think that this bounce probably gets back up to like 109 and a half, and then we'll have to come back and reassess. Let's go take a look at some of the top shitcoins, baby. Let's see what we got running over here. We got Mr. Buterin at 255. Lovely, lovely, lovely. More importantly, it's kind of in no man's land right now. I don't really see any reason for it to stop right here. I do think that it's actually going to reach much higher towards 275, like the 270 to 275 region. Looking good to me. It's in no man's land right now. It looks really, really good. And let me put another blue box in there. And by the way, we officially confirmed above the prior blue box yesterday on the closure. This one again giving you a beautiful retest on the close, or sorry, on the blue box, and then massive move to the upside. I mean, this was like a 240 to 255 tick. Jesus Christ, man. Very, 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 very powerful. Daily RSI is starting to get a little bit hotter here, but that's completely fine. I don't believe in anything that's overbought or oversold, but when divergence plays start to happen, that's when the top is likely in for, at the very least, the medium term, maybe even the long term. And that probably happens somewhere around here, where I'd be looking towards 270 to 275 region. Looks good. Looks very, very strong. Definitely one of the better movers in the last few days here. Mrs. Litecoin, how's this beautiful bitch doing? Looks eerily similar to Mr. Beaterall, right? Now, there's a few things to be aware of here. Mrs. Litecoin's very, very interesting as a chart right now, and the reason why I say that is because we're having a very, very strong stair stepping up move right here. This is very constructive, very, very good over a long period of time, and more importantly, we're going to see a golden cross on the daily movement averages right here between the green and purple, the 55 and the 200. Absolutely fucking beautiful as we approach major macro resistance right in this blue box territory right here, aka look at Ethereum, and I would be looking for it to probably take out this area to the upside and initiate a target towards actually the low $90, somewhere around here. That's where I'd be looking towards. So about 90 to 95 bucks. Looking overall good, looking overall healthy. And we do see the same sort of, we don't see the same sort of, but we do see a more primitive ascending triangle kind of being formed on over here. It's constructive behavior. It doesn't necessarily look like one, but you can't really expect these altcoins that don't really have consistent trading, do the same sort, have the same sort of signatures as some like Bitcoin, which, has a lot more, has a lot more interest in it overall. Lower time frame momentum oscillators looking absolutely fine. 4-hour Stokes still heading upwards and onwards, and more importantly, 4-hour RSI getting the trend very, very nicely here. You can even see that we're kind of flirting with a breakout out of this descending channel right here, which is of course a bullish formation. Typically speaking, do you want to call it a wedge or a channel? I mean, it's technically a wedge, but typically breakout to the upside, and would look for it to splurt onwards and upwards alongside price action taking out this 80 and a quarter resistance right here and initiating that next $10 move to $90 to $95 region. Looks overall good. We'll check out a few more shitcoins just for just checking them out. I know that a lot of people are interested in Link being one of the best looking charts in cryptocurrency for a very long time now. We've been speaking about this for a long time as well, and this is a great thing to be looking at right here. So actually, I'm going to get rid of everything right now. We'll do completely naked chart. I thought that we did this last night on Twitch, but for whatever reason it didn't save here. So this one had been working on a very long-term ascending triangle, and just looking at it longer term, this has been in an uptrend for a very long time, basically since the genesis. Even when Bitcoin was going down 50% plus in 2018, this thing was essentially holding its own and rallying off those regions, which is really, really good long term, and that does suggest relative strength, not just in relation to other altcoins, but in relation to Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin being kind of entering this this macro move to the upside, I would expect something like Link to act extra well. When something acts well in a bear market, when the market flips around, contrary to a lot of the popular belief, it's not the fucking shittier coins that did absolutely nothing or got very, very hurt during the last major down markets, but it's the ones that were operating well or relatively well that are likely to benefit the most. And this one being absolutely no exception right here. Link, one of the most beautiful charts in cryptocurrency land. Longer term, I do think that is going to initiate a move towards about 50,000 satoshis, and the breakout is real. The breakout looks good. Momentum oscillators look absolutely phenomenal here. Weekly RSI back in the bullish control zone. Very, 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 very constructive. Weekly Stokes having a fresh cross back up to the upside, even kind of following a dirty trend line coming in back from here, if you can kind of imagine what in there. And I'd expect this one to just kind of float its way up over the coming months into the 50,000 satoshi region. This looks really fucking good to me. Even on a daily, looks like it wants some more on this current move. There will be ebbs and flows in the lower time frames, but this one more or less good over the long term. We'll look at one more. We'll look at Cardano, one that I typically pick on, but I cannot pick on it any longer. Okay. I could kind of pick on it here, but I wouldn't be right on it. If I were to pick on it right here, I'm going to be wrong on it. This thing is very, 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 very likely to break this blue box this week. This is very constructive behavior. Again, we see weekly Stokes, momentum oscillators pointing back up north, getting back to the bullish control zone. We also see weekly RSI is kind of reverting the long-term trend as well, although a little bit less information available to us, unfortunately. But I would ultimately be looking for this one to take a major leg up towards about 850, 860 Satoshis, and probably maybe more long-term, but I would be looking for a pullback around that region, medium term at the very least. So yeah, and actually on top of that, I just noticed that this is not really a buy signal on the weekly jewel, but it does suggest that the momentum is certainly to the upside and more or less healthy. So I really like what I'm seeing here across the lands. Not only that, but looking at the daily, looking more or less constructive. Most alts are going to be acting well here, and because the Bitcoin dominance is coming down, this is actually one of the few times where I do think that playing the alts is, especially versus Satoshis, is actually going to be quite worthwhile, because the strong ones are likely to gain more. So Cardano and Link, kind of the some of the better, not necessarily Cardano, but Link certainly one of the better actors. So I wanted to put the spotlight on him, and Cardano accurately representing like the median of the shit coins. It's not like a tier 1. It's not really a tier 2, but it's somewhere in the middle of there. It represents the majority, I think, pretty damn well. And then there's obviously like the shitty shit coins that are like, only trade on Huobi and hit BTC and exchanges that probably don't even exist anymore, like Ether Delta. That's what I'd be paying attention to there. Anyways, going back over here to Bitcoin, kind of wrap this bitch up and keep this a little bit on the shorter side. Short term, I do think that Bitcoin probably does test back down around this blue box between about, should we say 10,100 to 10,200, just to be a little bit more inclusive, because I do think that we could get a wick down to 10,1 in line with the way that the probability chart looks. But anywhere in here is fine. I would look forward to get retested, but I do not think that we actually break to the downside. If we were to break to the downside on a 4-hour close below 10,1, let's call it on a more conservative estimate, I would look for a full move back down to 98.50. Again, I'm not really looking for that to happen, but I do think it's important to discuss. And then more importantly to the upside, I do think that we just kind of bounce there, float our way up towards this short-term resistance at about 10,550 to 10,600, again, in line with the expected moves with regards to historical volatility percentile, and probably a short-term pullback there, setting up for continuation on a medium time frame over the next coming weeks towards 11,000 bucks, 10.9 to 11,000, where I do think that will probably be set up for a medium-term time frame pullback, and then that'll likely set the stage for a push into 11.5, 12,000, and that's where things really get interesting once again, because that is where Bitcoin essentially has been rejected from for the last like 3 years, since 2018. Sorry, not 3 years, but 2 years. You can see that major highs coming in from right here, and more recently right here. So that is a humongous area longer term, also in line with the volume profile showing, absolutely no business being done above there. So very, 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 very likely that we do see Bitcoin, have a little bit of drama around that region. And then if Bitcoin does take it out to the upside, that is a time when I would be running around with fucking bull whores, and you can call me Krown sits with bulls or runs with bulls, whatever the fuck it is, and we could talk about moves back over to 16,000, 20,000 and beyond, and be fucking moon boys along with everyone else. Anyways, that's going to do it for today, but an absolute pleasure speaking with you on this one-sided conversation. As always, I'd like to wish you well, and again, I won't be on Twitch later today, but definitely on tomorrow, so stay tuned, and until next time.